So with that, now I would like to invite our honored guest and also moderator up to stage.
Testing, testing. Thank you, Tony, for passing me the mic. Okay, good morning, Europeans and the audience. So today is a breakthrough in history of UMP, because we are having our first property talk in UMP regarding the management course and property buying talks. So our main speaker, Seth will reveal 3 secrets in this 1-hour talks on how you can buy a house before you graduate. So I'll assist him to make the talk more interactive. Okay, so I'll give you a brief introduction to you. What is his background? Seth is a graduate from UMP 4 years ago. In 2013, he is the founder of Professor Property, which is a platform to educate the youngster about financial freedom and financial education among youngsters, especially on property buying. He's also a private school lab teacher, an investor, a renowned speaker, as well as an Airbnb boss. So let us welcome Seth with a big applause.
Thank you, Mr. Yap, for the amazing introduction. So, first of all, a very good afternoon to everyone. And honestly, I'm very impressed that you guys actually make the effort to come here. Because when I was in UMP 4 years ago, well, on this lovely Sunday, most of the time I will actually maybe still be lying on bed, okay? Or I'll be enjoying myself. So first of all, I'm going to give all of you a very big like for making the effort and time to be here. Okay, so for students that you actually register yourself, you'll be getting merit points. And besides the merit points, I'm going to promise you that it's going to be worth your time, because I'm going to share with you three secrets on how can you actually buy a house before you graduate. Okay, the first secret that I'm going to share today is on the secret on money management. After you graduate, how much you should spend every month, how much you should save, okay? And next one, the second secret is on the secret on house buying, okay? Because you're not buying something at 30 ringgit or 300 ringgit. You're buying something for considered affordable housing. You're buying something as much as 300,000 ringgit Malaysia. So of course, you're not going to go out there and just buy it, okay? You're going to do your homework and you're going to know what you're buying. So last secret that I'm going to share today is about the secret, the 72K secret, okay? So what is it about? Let us go on by beginning with the first one. So this is actually a statistics on Malaysian, okay, working adults, where 75% of them, they can't even take out 1,000 ringgit in the event of emergency. So, for example, tomorrow is a Monday, right? So if you go to your faculty office, okay, you ask 10 staff for 1,000 ringgit, you say that you have a life and death scenario, okay, you need 1,000 ringgit to survive. And most of them will tell you something like this. Abang nak tolong tapi duit tak ada. And the sad thing is they are telling you the truth. And this is a statistics actually made by Bank Negara Malaysia. Okay, Bank Negara is the boss of all the banks in Malaysia. Okay, CIMB, Maybank, RHB, Bank Islam. I'm sure you guys are still using Bank Islam, right? For UMPians, okay? So, this is actually the boss of all the banks, and they actually make the statistics, and they agree that the financial literacy in Malaysia is very, very low. And one of the best example, I would say, is illustrated by the late Michael Jackson. You guys have any ideas how much he was actually earning during his peak moment? Any ideas? Mr. Do you think, how much do you think Michael Jackson was earning?
Maybe I think it's around 50 million per year.
Yes, that is actually a very accurate Michael Jackson was actually earning as much as 50 to 100 US dollar, 50 to 100,000 US dollar every year. But by the time he passed away, he actually has a debt of more than $500 million US dollar. So you might wonder, how can someone earn as much as him has a debt of more than $500 million? But if you Google, you see one of the main reasons is on the overspending habit of Michael Jackson. Or in other words, there's no financial management, no financial planning. Okay, he earned so much, but he spent even much. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you guys a question. Okay, let's say I give you two choices. Okay, after you graduate, I give you two choices. You're going to buy either one. Okay, the first one is a low-cost 5-story walkout flat. Okay, the first floor is for sale for 65,000 ringgit Malaysia. Okay, 600 square feet plus, 3 rooms, 1 bathroom, 1 toilet. Okay, very basic unit without much renovation. Okay, the second choice is the famous Honda Jazz. Okay, for a new car, it's also for sale at 65,000 ringgit Malaysia, same price with the flat, and 1005cc, 5 years warranty, 5 years free maintenance. So I would like to know, what is your choice? What would be the very first big ticket purchase that you would do? Will you buy the flat or will you buy the car? Can I know who will buy the flat as your first purchase? Anyone? Yes, I'm seeing 1 or 2. So I assume the rest is actually buying the car, right? Okay, now I'm very interested to know the reason. So can I know your name and why will you choose to buy the flat as your first purchase?
My name is Nadine. Why because car value can change over the years, but the house price can also increase. So the price can
Okay, so she said a very good answer because the house price will increase but the car would decrease. So for your information, if you do not know, okay, I'm sure if you can see the slide, if you can't, maybe you can come forward, okay? You can see that 5 years down the road, okay, if you buy the flat and the car, what is the price difference? You can see that the house or the flat, the value actually increases from 65,000 to 83,000, okay? While for the car, the value actually decreases to 50,000, and this is based on a very conservative calculation. Okay, normally the house will increase more while the car will decrease more. So I would say the very first rule, the most fundamental in financial management would be to recognize the difference between liability and asset. Which in this case, the car is the liability because it depreciates in value over time, while the house is the asset. It increases in value. So for your money, for your future income, cut down your expenses on liability while use more of your income on asset. So now, I'm going to invite the guest speaker for the day. So he is Mr. Yap, and there's one day he shared something very interesting to me, and I want him to share with all of you so that maybe you guys can learn something from him. So Mr. Yap, I'll pass the stage to you. Thank you.
Okay, so can you try to make a guess on how much a fresh graduate can make after leaving the university? So according to one of the statistics and newspaper source, it is about 3,000 ringgit per month for fresh graduate entering into the industry. So with this small amount of salary, how do you going to distribute it evenly for your expenses, for your savings? Okay, so we will see. Okay, so I list down the expenses accordingly. So the list going on, firstly we will have all these things, EPF, car loan, food, parents, and many things else. So all this total up will be 2,000 something. Okay. All this total will be 2,000 something. So you left only 1,000 something in your saving, which is, I think personally, it's not sufficient for myself to save up 12,000 per year because I'll need to do extra investment. So I'll need to seek your advice. How can I manage my financial situation of being a fresh graduate earning monthly salary of 3,000 ringgit? So can you give us some advice? Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Yap, for the amazing sharing. So you can see, for a salary of 3,000, which is considered high for fresh graduates, okay, which is considered high, a 3,000 salary, you are actually spending more than 2,000 plus, okay, for all your expenses. So imagine if your salary is only 2,005, how can fresh graduate actually survive? So I myself, my first salary was not even 2,000. Okay, 4 years ago, my first job, my salary was only 1,008. So honestly, I can't even remember how I survived during that time, but honestly, it's like no savings at the end, even after working for 1 or 2 years. So I hope you guys can, make a planning something like this so that you know where your money is going. Is your money going for liability or your money is going for asset? So now it will be the first round of our Q&A session. So anyone, you have any questions to ask, anything you want to ask about how to manage your money, based on your income, anything?
Mr. Seth, I have a question. So just now according from the survey the response from our survey online Google Docs, there's one question which come through is very interesting. So the question asks about how should we manage our finance and spend wisely so that we don't overspend every month. So that at the end of the month it is very rich, but at the end of the month we are very poor. So how can we manage this?
Yes, thank you. So this is actually one of the questions we received from the online questionnaire before the talk. So besides recognizing the difference between liability and asset, one of the very simple guide would be, after you get your salary, okay, straight away you distribute it into half. Okay, the first 50% you're going to spend on your expenses. Expenses meaning, if you have a car, you're going to pay for a car loan, okay, or your house, you're going to pay for a house loan, your food, or anything else that you're going to pay every month, like PTPTN, okay, or if you're renting outside, you're going to pay for your rent. Okay, so this is your expenses. You're going to allocate 50% of your salary for expenses, while another 50%, after you get it, straight away, okay, cash deposit into another bank account. Preferably a bank account without without online banking and without ATM, so that even you need the money, you will not have the chance to use it. So please try to save at least 50% of your money income every month. So any other questions from the online?
I have next question. So what are the processes and the budget needed to buy the house or a property?
Alright, thank you, Mr. Yap. So actually one of the most popular questions asked was on the process on how to buy a house, the steps, how do you plan to buy a house. So for this, I'm going to cover in the next part, which is the second secret of the day, the secret on how to buy a house. Okay, this is actually the most basic info. This is the most distilled info ever. Okay, on how do you buy a house. So it's going to divide it into 3 parts. Okay, before you buy a house, during the process when you're buying a house, and after you bought a house. So what are the basic info that you have to know? First of all, you're going to ask yourself, what is your purpose of buying the house? Okay, what is the why? Why are you buying the house? Okay, this is your very own purpose tool. Okay, not Justin Bieber's, but yourself. So why are you buying the house? There's actually only 2 reasons. Okay, first one, you want to buy the house as your love nest, which means you're going to use it for your own stay, you're going to leave it, you're going to use the house for your family. The second reason is you're going to use the house for your money nest, okay? You're going to use the house as an asset to generate income for you, okay? So you're going to ask yourself, why I'm buying the house? And if you heard yourself saying something like, I'm going to buy the house to rent it out, and if I can't rent it out, I'm going to stay for myself. Okay, if you heard yourself saying something like this, I recommend you to stop the purchase and ask yourself again, why are you buying the house? So the next one would be the affordability. What is your affordability based on your monthly salary? Which means what is the budget of the house that you should be buying? So normally the bank, they will judge your affordability based on something called the debt service ratio, okay? Which is the DSR, where the bank would judge your salary, and for a salary of 3,000, for example, normally the bank, you're eligible to apply a loan of 200 to 300,000. But at the same time, you're going to benchmark yourself. Please make sure your monthly installment is less than 30% of your salary. Because anything more than 30% will be a very, very big burden. And lastly, would be your shopping time. Okay, so this is actually our ladies' favorite time. Okay, I'm sure all the ladies here love to shop, right? Even for window shopping, yeah? So what I'm going to shop for? First of all, you're going to shop for a bank that is willing to lend you the loan amount that you want. And of course, with the lowest interest possible. Next one, you're going to shop for a lawyer. This is especially true if you are buying a second-hand house. Okay, because you do not want to share the lawyer with the seller. And lastly, of course, you're going to shop for your dream house. So there's a rough guide saying that you should view 100 houses. Okay, you should shortlist 10 and buy only one. But of course, I'm not asking you to actually shop to view 100 houses. But you should at least view as much as possible so that you can get the best deal out there. So the next part would be the viewing process. Means the process where you have actually selected your dream house and you're going to buy it. So the first thing you're going to know is you're going to pay for a booking fee. Okay, you're going to sign for a booking form and you're going to pay for a booking fee. So it could be as low as 500 ringgit Malaysia to up to 3% of the property price. And nothing much actually, it's only paperwork, and the real action actually starts after you pay your booking fee and after you sign your signature. Because there's usually a time frame, okay, within around 14 to 30 days, you're going to apply for a loan from the bank and make sure it's approved within the timeline. And I'm sure most of you will be buying a house using a loan, right? If anyone buying a house using a cash, please let me know. I'll be very interested to talk to you. Okay? So normally we're going to make a loan with the bank. So make sure it's approved within the 14 to 30 days, because anything more, any delay could result in the sale getting cancelled or your booking fee getting forfeited. So the next one, after you pay your booking fee, okay, the next one is we're going to move on to the most important document in the transaction, which is your sales and purchase agreement, your SPA. So normally this is the official contract that seals the deal between you, the buyer, and the seller. And during this time, again, lots of paperwork from the lawyer and also from the bank. And the most fun part is after you sign all those documents, okay, it's like up to 100 pages that you need to sign. So because after you sign, is where the deal is sealed, okay? And this is a time where you're going to pay all your fees. So normally this is the time where people are going to use all their savings to pay for the down payment as well as other fees. So for a standard or normal buying procedure, normally you are required to pay a 10% down payment from the house prices and also a 7 to 8% of miscellaneous fees. So it's actually quite a lot. And this is very true when you're buying a second-hand house, okay? So next one is after you bought the house. After you bought the house, you granted something called the vacant possession. So basically it's a term that shows that you are actually technically the owner of the house, but the house is actually still legally bought by the bank. And after that, you go for renovation, of course. So if possible, try to not exceed, the renovation fees, try to limit it to 10% of your property purchasing price. Okay? Okay, because anything more than that is not very worth. And lastly would be, don't forget to pay your installment. Okay, because any late installment payment could actually result in the bank not willing to lend you again in the future. And of course, the worst case scenario is the bank would repossess the property and you would be declared bankruptcy. So basically, this is the second secret that I'm sharing today. Now we're actually moving to our second round of the Q&A session. So anything you guys want to know about house buying or buying your first house, your first property, anything you guys want to know, any basic info or any tips you guys want to know, you can ask now. And I would say this is not actually a chance that happens often because this is actually the first property talk in UMB. And because during my time, there's actually no such talks, okay? No talks about how to manage your money, how to buy your first house. So any questions before we move to the online questions that we received? If not, we'll move to the online questions.
Hi, Mr. Seth. Since there's no response and questions from the floor, so we will now review one of the famous questions from online Google Docs. Actually, this question is dropped by myself. Okay, so I'll proceed. What question is it? So, as a graduate, next in future, for example, when I'm working for 1 year or 2 years, how much I need to save up to pay for down payment for the first house?
Okay, so that one is a very good question. I would say that the point is not on earning as much or as fast as possible, okay? The point is on how to manage your money, okay? So like I said, one of the tips is to save a 50% of your income. Like for example, if someone earning as much as 5,000, that's actually quite a big amount, okay? But if you only manage to save 500, compared with someone earning 3,000 but they managed to save half of their salary. So after a year, they will actually have the money required for down payment. So I would say the trick here is focus on how to manage your money, okay? Not so much on earning as much or as fast as possible. So any questions, any other questions from the online?
Thank you, Seth. Actually got another question from the online Google Docs too. The second question is about how is the second-hand house compared to under construction house? Is it better in terms of the build of the house or the pricing of the house as compared in between the first-handed house and second-handed house?
Okay, the question is on what is the difference between the new houses and the second-hand house. So basically, I would say that the second-hand house is cheaper, okay, compared to the surrounding new and especially under construction houses. Well, normally when you buy a new house, okay, normally they will offer you rebates such as 0% down payment. Okay, they're going to free you all the stamp duty, all the lawyer fees, free this, free that. But actually, they've already factored in all these free things, all this free stuff into the house prices. So normally for new house, you can see her house price is actually more expensive compared to the second-hand house. But for second-hand house, usually you need a considerable amount of down payment and the miscellaneous fees. So this is basically the biggest difference between the new and the second-hand house.
Thank you. How is it compared with the Rumah Selangorku and Prima? What is the difference between all those government-built house and private development house? Is there any chief difference? Can you clarify this? Thank you.
So for the government house, okay, nowadays we actually have government launching lots of considered affordable house. Okay, you heard something like Prima, Rumah Selangorku or Rumah WIP. So all these are actually affordable housing projects launched by the government so that it's easier for the younger generation like us or like fresh graduates to own a house. So normally these houses are very cheap, okay, considered very cheap with the developer house because I would say the most expensive is around 300 to 400,000 Malaysia. Okay, it's considered very cheap, but usually there's a very I would say there's a selection process you need to go through. Okay, it's not that you want to buy the house, you can get it. You need to buy it and you need to go through the selection process, and if you are lucky, yes, you can get it. But I would say this, we just treat this as a bonus. Okay, if you can get it, that's very good. But if you can't, you have to go out there and buy other houses besides the government house.
Thank you, Seth. Now I have better understanding about prima rumah school Selangor and second-hand house on the market.
So now, after the Q&A, I'm going to move on to the final part of the day, which I say will be the highlight of the day. This is actually the what I call the 72,000 secret. So why 72,000? Okay, how many of you guys love free stuff? Like for example, last week there's the 11 November big online sale. Okay, we actually offer lots of free gifts or free vouchers. So lots of us we like free stuff. Okay, how about a free house? How about buying a free house? This sounds like a scam, right? Well, now I'm going to show you an example. So this is actually a calculation I made online for my friend. Okay. So my friend is actually working in Singapore. So he wanted to buy a house in Johor Bahru. And the house price is 480,000 ringgit. And he says that he wants to finish his house loan as soon as possible. If possible, under 10 years he wants to finish his house loan. Okay, because he's actually earning Singapore dollars, so well converted to ringgit Malaysia, there's actually quite a lot. And I asked him how much you want to top up every month to finish the house loan in a shorter time. He says that his budget is around 40 to 50,000. He's going to top up 40 to 50,000 ringgit Malaysia every year so that he can finish his house loan faster. So I made a calculation for him, a very simple calculation. You can see here, he was actually applying loan, 85% loan of the house. Why? Because he says that he wants to save on interest and he wants to again finish his house loan faster. So I made a calculation. He need to top up 45,000 every year, and he can actually finish his house loan in 7 years. Okay, this is what he was actually doing. So, but because of this, he was paying 72,000 for down payment. Okay, because he was paying 15% from the house prices, 72,000. But what if you can pay zero down payment for the house? This is actually a second-hand house. So I made another calculation for him. You take a 90% loan of 540,000. Why 540,000? Because that is actually the value of the house at Johor. The area that he's buying. That's actually the value the bank recognized. The bank actually recognized the value up to 600,000, but he was buying at 480,000. So this might be a bit confusing. But I made a calculation for him. We take a 90% loan of 540,000. Okay. Again, you top up 45,000 every year, and guess what? You can actually finish your house loan in just 8 years. Only 1 year more, 1 year extra compared to the previous example. But what is the difference? The difference is you can actually save on 72,000 down payment because you are taking a higher loan. So I would say the higher loan, most of us, we scared of debt from the bank. Okay, we don't want debt from the bank. We want to clear our debt as soon as possible. But if you utilize the debt well, if you leverage on the debt, you can actually save a lot when you buy a house. In fact, you're using no down payment when you're buying a house. And this is a second-hand house, okay? So I would say that there's actually a lot of, procedures involved on how do you do this, but because of the time is limited today, I'll just show you an example that you can actually buy a house without paying down payment. Okay, but you have to leverage this well, because for me, this is like fire. Okay, if you use it well, it's going to benefit you. But if you use it wrongly, it's going to burn you. Because you are taking a higher loan, it means that you are paying a higher monthly installment. But if you utilize it well, you can actually buy a house for free. Okay. So back to the title of the day. How can you buy a house even before you graduate? There's actually a very simple trick, okay? For those of you who came today, you already know some of the secrets that I've shared. You know how to manage your money, how to save and spend enough, and you know on some of the basic info on house buying, and also you know that you can actually buy a house for free. So for example, maybe your relatives or your family, like your brother, okay, he want to buy a house for investment, okay, he want to buy a house to rent it out. Okay, he has the money, he can apply for loan, but he do not know how to buy. What is the correct way to buy a house? So you can actually talk to him. Let us do a partnership. Okay, for example, Mr. Yap is my brother. Okay, I talk to him. I know you want to buy a house, but you do not know how to buy it. Let me show you how to buy it. Okay, together we make a partnership. We get a lawyer. We draft a profit sharing agreement. Okay, I will provide the technical knowledge. I will teach you how to buy a house for free. And as a result, I'll get 20% share of the house, 20% of the profit of the house when we sell the house later. For example, 5 years later, I buy a 300,000 house. Okay, 5 years later, the house is worth 450,000. We sell it, we make a profit of 150,000. I'll take a 20% share of the house, of the profit, because of me providing the technical knowledge. This is actually the secret on how you heard some people, they have 10 houses, they have 50 houses, they even have 100 houses. How can they buy so much? How can they have that amount of money to buy so much? It's because they provide the technical knowledge to someone that wanted to buy but they did not know how. So they take for example, they take a 10 or 20% profit sharing on the house. So for you guys that you actually attended the talk today, okay, you can actually talk to some of your relatives or friends that they wanted to buy. If they do not know how to buy, you can teach them. You can teach them how do you buy a house for free. Okay. So lastly, I will conclude the talk with this sentence. Okay. If you want to go fast, you go alone. Okay. If you want to buy a house fast, okay, if you want to buy your first house very fast, you go alone. You buy yourself. First house, second house. But usually you're going to get stuck on the third and the fourth house. Okay? Because usually on your third house, you're only eligible to apply a loan of 70%. Means that you're going to take out 30% down payment. That's actually quite a lot. Okay? Because for your first and second house, you can apply a loan up to 90%. Okay? Means you only need to fork out 10% down payment. But for your third house, you need to take out 30% down payment. Means that if you're buying a so-called affordable house, 300,000 ringgit Malaysia, you need to take out 30% down payment, which is 90,000. Okay, even for me, I don't even have 90,000 in the bank. So if you want to go fast, you go alone. You can very fast. You can buy a first, second, but third house you're going to get stuck. But if you want to go far, you go together. If you want to buy 10 houses, you want to buy 50 houses. You're going to work together as a team. You're going to work together with your partners. Okay, you're going to utilize each other's advantage. Okay, you can provide the technical knowledge, while someone may provide the funds, or another one may provide the 90% quota loan, the loan quota. So, any other questions you guys wanted to ask about house buying or anything? House buying, like how you can buy a house for free? Anything I can help to answer? Any other questions from the online? Mr. Yap?
Thank you, Mr. Seth. I think there's no question from online. Okay. So I think we'll just proceed with the fill up of Google form. The floor on the audience, can you do me a favor to fill